Okay, so imagine drawing on the street with chalk, and imagine creating something so large that it can be seen by a satellite from 423 miles up. And imagine a community of people getting together, some 6,000 people, creating together, collaborating, and most of them being elementary school kids of Alameda, California. This is our Guinness World Record. And our nonprofit is called Drawing on Earth. I also work as a digital artist and a painter, painting, drawing. I do a lot of work with animals in the realm of spirit, where the imagination and the mystical kind of overlap. My work's been published in magazines and book covers, and the name of my studio is called the Hearts and Bones Studio. A piece I did for the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, a logo, or work that I did at Pixar on the Disney film called John Carter. A book on being a dad that's self-published. My oldest girl's now going into college next month. So I should say next week. And science fiction story or film or graphic novel that I'm slowly working on, where I'm creating the concept and the story while the art's happening. And it's about the military, and it's about art and creativity, and it takes place on the decommissioned Navy Air Base in Alameda. And it's out of time. It's over time. Digital photo collage work of guardian animals, guardians of war, guardians of nature. And what I want to talk about now is this drawing on Earth. So with very simple chalk, which is inexpensive and impermanent, there's these festivals that have happened all over the world where the community decides that it wants to raise money for the arts because the government is not doing that well, or the school systems or the states. So in Alameda, California, there are no elementary school art teachers at all. And in my opinion, that's wrong. And what we should be doing is anchoring creativity into the kids' bodies so that they can grow up and for the rest of their lives be creative in all aspects. So these festivals, the largest one now is in Sarasota, Florida in November. You have hundreds of artists who are doing some of the best art that I have seen. And you have thousands of people. They say there's 200,000 people that show up for the Florida Chalk Drawing Festival, and they also go vertical, which means they bring in international graffiti artists. This is the first piece that I did in Santa Barbara in 1994 with my friend Phil Roberts. He was doing the featured piece, and he invited me to help him out. And I was intimidated, but he said, I'll have you up running in a day. And it was true, and we had 6 days to work on it. And it was an incredible experience, and what I saw was, on some level, it's the rock and roll of the art world. It's a lot of us artists have spent days, months, and years alone in our studios doing work, and here are collaborative, community-based pieces where the artist is no longer separated. They're on the streets, they're drawing, access to kids and adults, and you can actually see the processes. So I've been hired as a featured artist over the years, where you get more time and more money. Most of the time there's no money because it's a volunteer, you're raising money. But there's been some festivals where it's just too much fun and you have days to do art. And there's this level where you put your headphones on and then you take them off and you talk to people, and you put your headphones on and then you go, oh, my back's really sore, and you go for some Advil. And it's days of work. And then there's the story and the narrative. So this one is a blessing for the DNA of the earth. So there was this concept of like, how do we now do something that's out of the box and actually do some healing or do some magic that's on the bigger picture. This was in San Rafael with my friend Clayton Thiel, and we created these fiberglass heads, and then so we went above the surface of the street, and then we went down into it, is the illusion. And this night when I was working on it, I realized I could pull the piece out of the box and onto the street, and so I pulled it out in a way that you could actually stand on St. Raphael's body or feet. And so the next day people lined up to be able to stand, actually enter, and engage with the art. So concept sketches or ideas, they come from somewhere. So I had all these animals that were, my dog had gotten hit twice in the front yard with raccoons, and so I thought of doing a blessing for the urban animals. So out of foam core, Clayton Thiel and I cut this piece up and then lit it so we could have some lights for it, and then did that chalk drawing at one of the festivals. Sketches, ideas, they come from somewhere, they're connected to something. This was where the big animals in Ohio were killed. There was about 50, 60 animals that were let out of a private zoo, and they had to be all put down before the night was over. And so I decided to do a patron saint of zoo animals. And it was dedicated to all the animals that had been killed at that event. And that dandelion, the last moment I was leaving on the last day, I found this there. And so it was nature saying that I acknowledge you, or this is the way I interpreted it. It was like nature saying, I get it, or thank you. And that was like super helpful for me. So, kids then caught my attention by having kids and starting to do chalk drawings in schools. And now I go to schools and we do large collaborative work together. Pile up just like this, but a bunch of little kids, and they're a lot more unruly. But I give a similar lecture. And then I go out and do a demonstration, so I'm actually teaching. It's geography, it's art, it's lines, it's shadow, it's gradations. And then we work on a piece together. And this is one of the first ones that I did where I actually understood that you could actually do an outline and focus everybody inside to it, and you would get a collaboration. Like the music? The musicians here in the room, I thought you would like that one. I used the school's totem animals, which I call the mascots. I put it back into the mythical realm. And so it's a way for the kids to connect to storytelling and to something that has meaning. So in 2003, we pulled off the largest copy of a master in San Rafael. So there was 18 people that worked for 6 days on the ceiling. That was half size, so it was 25 by 75 feet. And then at my kids' elementary school, I'd done a drawing, and Google Earth launched, and I zoomed down from Google Earth, and I saw that I could see the drawing. And I went, whoa, that's interesting. And then I was in a men's group, and the question was, if you had 40 guys and all their assets, their time and tools, do you have a dream? What would you do with that? And I hadn't ever thought about it before, but I had a vision. I think it was sitting in the hot tub at my gym, which is one of my best offices. So here's Alameda. And out on the left is the decommissioned Navy Air Base. And so the vision I had was to create a piece of art that you could see from a satellite and to raise the funds or awareness of the arts and to give the kids an experience that they would remember for the rest of their lives. So there's our drawing. It's of a fire salamander and a ginkgo leaf. So those are two of the oldest living things on the planet. So it was a teaching story, and there was also a story that we told to like 10,000 kids about getting lost and forgetting how to get home. So the story is called The Journey Home. Remember? So we had 2 weeks out on the base. The city of Alameda waived a $14,000 rental fee, and we raised money, and it was a 2-year project just to kind of get it going. It was a 6-year vision, but it happened. So we bussed all the kids out from the school. And then the last day we had 1,800 people work on it. And there's basically 6,000 drawings there. And we're in the Guinness World Book of Records. And I think they beat our record 2 weeks ago in Connecticut. I'm coaching. I'm the coaching and consultant over there. And so we did 90,000 and they did 100,000. So there's our piece from an airplane. So that was a project that blew me away and took me to the next level. And there it is fading away like everything does. Now one of the things I'm traveling around the world to do large community pieces just like this. This is in Venezuela. And the goal is to do maybe 12 different countries and to tell one story that will kind of write itself over time. So if you have any countries, connections, I would like them, please. And it was perfect. It was an incredible experience. It was too much fun. And it paid. And there's our piece. So it was about growing creativity. And then the last day I was invited to work with 40 of the professional artists from the country. They were bringing them in for a week-long training, and my class was the last thing they did. So we did a collaborative piece where I taught them everything I knew while doing this piece, and then they basically worked the rest of the day on their own, which was great. It's like teaching somebody and then standing back and just watching it happen. And then I was invited to help build a robot out of recycled materials. So this robot went to Burning Man last year. So Nick Meyerhoff had a small grant, and Burning Man, if you haven't seen it, looks like this. It's up to 50, 60,000 people that show up in the middle of nowhere for a short amount of time. It's the world's largest collaborative art experience in the world. And if you haven't been, I can only recommend that you go because it will change your life. There's magic that happens there on lots of different levels. And there's our robot, and he's having a good time. It's a big dance place. But while I was there, I had this idea, and I realized that I could actually register as a playa artist, as a Burning Man artist. So you see the little thing I circled over there in the corner? So I had an idea that I would take this little garden trowel that's in my hands, and I would scratch into the surface of the desert. And I did that for several mornings and several nights and covered about an acre of land. And that was incredible because it was a learning experience. It was an experiment, but it worked out great. And you could see that line, and it's literally, my tool was this big. People went up prepared for months. You know, I had something that you could buy for $1 or $2. And I had a full moon one night, and it was beautiful weather. So right now, if you go to Google and you type in Burning Man, you will go here, and if you zoom in, you can see all my drawings to the top left. And they're like that. So right now on Google Earth. So this was the 5th piece of art that I've done that was photographed by satellites. And my next, one of my dreams. Right. Okay, so I don't have to say anything more about that. The other one that's more local is I'm interested in obtaining this site right here. And 14 minutes, I have a couple more. Get this site and turn it into the first public drawing space in the world. So it would be 3 tennis courts and it would be so simple. So I'm probably looking for time and some fundraising. It's in Alameda on the decommissioned Navy Air Base, and something about that's exciting. So then the stuff that I've done this year is I've drawn up at the UC Berkeley Space Science Lab. And in Pleasanton, the Space Science Lab has this connection to a project called the Cosmic Serpent. And it's where the science people are connected with the indigenous people in the country, and they're working on mutual wisdom. So I really like that idea, so I created a solar and wind-powered dragon. So there's the solar little panels and the wind power. This was at a school in Berkeley, elementary school, off of a grant. So I looked at this, and they had done the playground stuff, and then I thought, oh, I can draw lines and make this dimensional, just like that. And then this is the next. So then this is the Photoshop version, right? So I put the gradations in there. But I just thought that was really cool. So when you stand at that one spot that everybody and all the kids can stand from, and then that's what we did for the day. We filled that much in with color and chalk. And then the last thing I did last week was at the Mission Cultural Center, and I've just started working with veterans and veteran artists. And there's this whole thing about how the vets aren't, in the old days, the society came and they welcomed the warriors back into the culture. They did a ceremony, and they said thanks, and they also asked them to leave behind what's no longer of service. And then the warrior or the veterans felt like the society was connected to them. So I see that that's not happening the way that it should be, and there's a lot of pain and suffering that's around with war. So I was invited to bring in a canvas at the whole last week was veteran artists, and there was a gallery show, and so we had a collective community live drawing piece where vets and their families and at the end of the gallery, at the end of the night, everybody was around this piece talking, watching, or working. That was where the energy was. And particularly, there's a man right there on the left. He and his wife were there, and their son was killed through suicide. He was a suicide Iraqi war vet. And she was able to, I actually wrote his name there on the corner, and the mother drew a feather that to her symbolized her son. And we ended up drawing feathers over the whole thing. And it totally changed the whole energy of the piece. And so in Florida, in November, I have proposed, and it was accepted, to do a very large community chalk drawing that's going to be a ceremony for war vets, for veterans, and for anybody war affected, which basically is all of us. So I'm co-designing and collaborating a big piece that will be maybe as big as this room, and somehow we will walk through it or journey through it and have a fire burning and somehow get on the other side as an experiment in healing. Because there's something about war and art that I'm interested in. And my reading is that war has somehow slipped into this world and anchored probably through money and it's making a big mess, whereas where it wants to live is in the mythological realms. Because warriors and war is a part of our inner being, so it will always be there, but we don't want it on the planet the way it is right now. It's just messing stuff up. And so we want to somehow let it go back into the mythological realms. So imagine that. And go home and make some art. Thank you.